Welcome to the Native Speaker and Ireland House webinar on report writing for academic and professional purposes. As part of our academic focus here, we're going to look firstly at the IELTS report. The IELTS report includes having to write a report describing one of these: a pie chart, an infographic, a line graph, and or a pie chart, or indeed a combination of all four. The IELTS report strategy means that you have to write 150 words to a high standard in 20 minutes. So you need to read and understand the graphic, identify the key words, and carefully read the labels, and then decide what you're going to say. You need about 3 minutes to do this. So you need to write 5 paragraphs, including an introduction, 3 body texts, and a conclusion, of about 30 words per paragraph. Why? Well, 150 divided by 5 gives you 30 words per paragraph. In real life, it's not always this neat, and you may not always write 30 words, and you may not always write 5 paragraphs. But you do need to complete the minimum of 150 words in order not to lose marks. This strategy that we've described here gives you the beginning of a framework to plan your strategy as regards content delivery and time management. For time management, you need about 3 minutes per paragraph and 2 minutes at the end to check for mistakes and correct them. Every mistake that you find before the examiner is another point in your pocket. So that's 150 words done in a total of 20 minutes. According to the IELTS band descriptors of task achievement, grammatical range and accuracy, lexical resource, and cohesion and coherence. Don't worry, I'll explain what all this means. Band descriptors are published by IELTS in order to explain to students how they correct the exams. The exams are corrected according to these 4 categories of task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. And as you can see over here on the left, you're scored from a range of 1 to 9, 9 being the possible highest score. Task achievement is very simple. This means, did you write about what they asked you to write about? Coherence and cohesion. Coherence means, do your sentences make sense? And cohesion asks, are they logically and naturally structured? Lexical resource means, have you used high quality and natural vocabulary? Anytime you see lexical, that refers to vocabulary, the quality of your words. Grammatical range and accuracy means, have you used natural and accurate grammar structures? So that's what they mean, and you have to write your report in order to score as many points in each of these categories, and we'll help you to do that. Starting a report on graphs and charts. Well, it is of course very, very important to get a good start. As we say, a good start is half the battle. So, as your first sentence in your report, you'll need a nice intro phrase. So here's a very good intro phrase: here we can see. Here we can see. So you should practice these. You can pause the recording and repeat these at your own leisure. Here we can see. And then you'll mention what you're looking at. Is it a pie chart? Is it a line graph? Is it 2 bar charts? Is it a line graph and 2 pie charts? Is it a bar chart and a pie chart? As I said, it's very often a combination. And the next word should be verb ing. Showing, illustrating, detailing, describing. And then you'll use a link phrase. Now, it doesn't always have to be a link phrase, but as you can see, it works very comfortably here. The number of, the amount of, the percentage of, the cost of, the price of, and the rate of. Remember, this word here has 2 pronunciations in English. If the first letter of the next word is a consonant, then you say the. If the first letter of the next word is a vowel, then you say the. So it's the number of and the amount of. Then you'll have a subject and an object, and either a verb ing or a past participle verb. And then you'll have your complement here. Now, let's focus on this aspect first. If we say the number of course, if we say number, it must be a countable noun here. Now, if what is happening is an action or an active thing, then we'll use verb ing. So the number of students, so students is countable, so it's the number of students using iPhones to get their class notes. Well, when you pick up your iPhone and tap the screen with your finger, that's an active thing, that's an action. So you're going to use verb ing. The amount of money, so amount of is used with uncountable nouns like money, and then we'll use a passive structure. So we're going to use the past participle. That's the third form of the verb. Remember, all verbs have 4 forms. So the verb form of spend is spend, spent, spent, spending. So we need the third form, the past participle. Why? Well, money doesn't jump out of your wallet, run down the street and spend itself. So that's why this is passive. Teachers using projectors in class. Well, here we've said the percentage of teachers. Percentage can be used with money, students or teachers, so it's good for all categories, both countable and uncountable, but you should only use it if the graphic that you're looking at is using percentages. That's an active thing, so it's verb ing. The cost of oil produced in Oman. Well, oil doesn't produce itself. It has to be produced by somebody. So this is passive. Past participle produced. Bananas don't sell themselves, so the price of bananas sold. And here I've shown you an example that's empty. Why? Well, because from time to time you'll come across a graphic that means you shouldn't really use a verb, and you're going to have to use your own judgment there. You may feel that it's not suitable, so don't be afraid to step away from it, and don't be forced into using a verb just because I showed you this structure. But if you could use a verb, it does show grammatical range and accuracy by showing the examiner that you know verb ing here, and you know either a verb ing or a passive form here. Now, what I've described here is useful for an academic exam strategy, but of course that's also a very good standard to write your work reports, your university reports, or indeed your high school reports. So this is a good formula to use to be guaranteed of high quality sentences. And another aspect to this, that if you're writing an exam, and as part of the exam you have to write a report, remember you are under time pressure and you do have to write a certain number of words in a certain time. So it's good to monitor how many words you're producing. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. These structures produce well in advance of 10% of your report, or indeed half of your first paragraph. Let's practice. Here we can see a pie chart showing the number of students using iPhones to get their class notes. Now, it's very important that we get muscle memory here, and if you can speak a sentence, you're on the path to being able to write it effectively. So in these slides, I'm going to ask you to repeat it yourself after I say it. So, now you. Very good. The next one. Here we can see a line graph illustrating the amount of money spent on gifts on special occasions. Now you. Very good. Next one. Here we can see 2 bar charts detailing the percentage of teachers using projectors in class. Now you. Very good. Next one. Here we can see a bar chart illustrating the cost of oil produced in Oman over a 10-year period, 1990 to 2000. Now you. Very good. Next one. Here we can see a line graph and two pie charts showing the price of bananas sold in Irish shops over the period 1990 to 2017. Now you. Very good. Next one. Here we can see a bar chart and a pie chart describing the rate of growth in exports from Ireland to China between 1990 and 2017. Now you. Very good. So there we have a possible formula and a nice sentence structure for your opening sentence. Or here's another option. You could start with this introduction phrase, the following. Then you'll mention the infographic you're describing, like we had before, the following pie chart, line graph, bar charts, etc. And then you'll use the infinitive verb, but you must be careful here about which person. So the following pie chart shows. Pie chart is singular, so it's an it. I show, you show, he shows, she shows, it shows. The line graph, singular, is an it. The following line graph describes. But here we see the following bar charts detail. So it's they detail. Okay. The line graph and two pie charts show. The bar chart and pie chart illustrate, even though there's no S here, because there's two of them, that makes this a they, and they illustrate. And then the rest of it is the same again, the number of, the amount of, the percentage of, the price of, the cost of, the rate of, and then students using iPhones to get their class notes, etc. So very similar to the last time. But instead of saying, here we can see a pie chart showing, we've said the following pie chart shows. Again, this shows the examiner that you have range. Now, this is an option. You can start your first paragraph either with the previous formula of here we can see a pie chart showing, or you can start it with the following pie chart shows. So the following pie chart shows the number of students using iPhones to get their class notes. Now you. Very good. Next one. The following line graph describes the amount of money spent on gifts each Christmas. Now you. Very good. The following bar charts detail the percentage of teachers using projectors in class. Now you. Very good. Next one. The following bar chart illustrates the price of oil produced in Oman over a 10-year period, 1990 to 2000. Now you. Very good. Next one. The following line graph and two pie charts show the cost of bananas sold in Irish shops over the period 1990 to 2017. Now you. And the last one. The following bar chart and pie chart illustrate the rate of growth in exports from Ireland to China between 1990 and 2017. Now you. Very good. Now remember, even though we're focusing on report writing and a writing skill, this language is perfectly fine for presentations. So it's always good to practice speaking these phrases. It helps to consolidate it in your memory, to make it stronger in your memory, but also it makes it more easy, or easier rather, for you to use this in a speaking situation like a presentation to a group. Okay, so let's look at a graph now and see how we can use those phrases. So option 1, here we can see two pie charts showing the percentage of people immigrating and emigrating to and from the UK in 2007 and their reason for doing so. Okay, So here you can see the title, and we saw immigration and emigration. So the examiners don't always make it very simple for you. They want you to work a little bit. So they want you to extract the verb forms from here. So even though they've given us the noun, now we can create the verb form immigrating and emigrating. A question brought up by our students in our most recent webinar was, what's the difference between immigration and emigration? And a point I used, an easy way to remember, is E is for exit. Exit is going out. So E is for emigration. That's leaving a country. I is for in. Immigration is coming into your country. Another question that came up is, what's the difference between immigration, emigration, and migration? Immigration and emigration tend to be long term. So when people do it, they're probably planning to settle in the country they're going to, or they think it's going to be a long-term stay. Migration might be shorter term. So it might be, for example, you go to work in a country for 6 months and you come back home for 2 months and then you're gone again for another 6 months. So that's a nice phrase. Here we can see 2 pie charts showing the percentage of people immigrating and emigrating to and from the UK in 2007 and their reason for doing so. Here, for example, don't forget, reading the label, you should understand that this is an important part. This is a key word. So the examiners expect you to mention this. And you can say, and their reason for doing so. Now you see this ending here, doing so. I love this phrase because it helps you avoid saying immigrating and emigrating. So you don't have to say, and their reason for immigrating and emigrating, which would look repetitive. Okay? So the reason for doing so is very good. Option 2 to start this report could be, the following 2 pie charts show, or if you just wanted to focus on one, the following pie chart shows. Now, I'm just using that to remind you about the S issue in verbs, not because I want you to focus on one pie chart. I just want you to remember that when you use this structure, you must pay attention to the S verb. It is one of the most common problems in amongst language students. Okay, so the following 2 pie charts show the number of people immigrating and emigrating to and from the UK in 2007 and their reason for doing so. The reason for doing so. So this complement, a good complement, always answers question words like who, what, where, why. So this complement says where, to and from the UK, when, in 2007, and why, their reason for doing so. So again, these are good, strong sentences, and they produce well in advance of 15 words. So you're well over 10%. You're at almost 15% here of your report complete. Now, you're watching this on video on YouTube. So what I'm going to suggest to you is that you pause the video now, maybe take out a pen and paper and write this in yourself as to what should go in each of the boxes. Okay? Or just speak it off the top of your head before I continue speaking. So maybe press pause now and write in what you think should go here. Okay? So spoiler alert, I'm going to press play again now. So here we go. Here we can see 2 pie charts showing the number of students studying bachelor's, master's and PhD courses. Or option 2 could give us, now pause the video and write it in yourself on a piece of paper, or if you've printed this out on PDF, fill it in yourself right now with your pen before I give you the answer. Okay, I'm going to start again. So the following 2 pie charts show the number of students studying bachelor's, master's and PhD courses. If it was pie charts, of course pie charts in both, so of course it's show, not shows. Good. Here we see a line graph now. Option 1, here we can see a line graph showing the number of people visiting a store. Okay, so here we can see that there's an action happening and it's in a store. Option 2, the following line graph shows the number of students visiting a store. Okay, so remember this S. Line graph is singular here. That means it's an it. It shows. Okay? All right. Now, remember I told you that you may in fact get a combination of these structures. And whereas many students see that as a difficulty, we see that as a great opportunity. Why? Well, instead of having to choose between the sentences, we can now actually use both sentences, and we can complete over a full paragraph. So we can, my suggestion is we'll start with the phrase the following. So the following line graph shows the number of people visiting a store over an 8-hour period, because here you see it's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's 8 hours, so we're going to say over an 8-hour period. Now, in the next sentence, we can't really say here we can see. So we're going to have to amend the first step a little bit, and we're going to say we can also see. So instead of saying here we can say we can also see. Now this is fantastic for us because we know how to build the rest of the sentence, and we can say we can also see a bar chart describing the age breakdown of males from 7 different countries. Okay? Which is here. The age breakdown refers to this category here. You'll often see this kind of category or key, and it shows you, for example, 0 to 14 years old, 15 to 64 years old, and 65 years and older. Well, the way you would write about that is the age breakdown of. And because they're talking about males, we'd say the age breakdown of males. And over here we have 7 different countries. So instead of saying United Kingdom, Germany, Mexico, Japan, Russia, Brazil, United States, I don't say that first. I say from 7 different countries. Now this is great. Sentence 1 and sentence 2 are both being used, and we can produce them. When you're showing the age breakdown of something, you're often going to build it like that. You show or describe or detail the age breakdown of something. So the age breakdown of staff. They often use this for gender and indeed nationality. So you'll often see age breakdown, gender breakdown, nationality breakdown, and here breakdown means they show you each category inside the information. Okay, so there's a very nice phrase, and it very often comes up in the IELTS exam especially, but you may have to use this when you're writing reports at work. So it shows the age breakdown of, and then staff, students, etc. Don't forget it's the and of. We find that students very often drop these 2 little words here, and that breaks your your lovely report, so you don't want to do that. Okay. So that's a fantastic structure. It will give you a nice report in the exam. You can say the following line graph shows the number of people visiting the store over an 8-hour period. Full stop. We can also see a bar chart describing the age breakdown of males from 7 different countries. That nets us 35 words, which is over a paragraph in the IELTS example of the IELTS report, but also a good report for you. So if you had to give a presentation at work, in college or at school, or indeed if you're doing exams in high school, in college, and doing reports at work, here we have a very, very nice way of starting your first report. And remember, starting the report is one of the most stressful parts for you because you dread doing it. But once you get started, once you get moving, well, it's like somebody giving you a push on a bicycle. It gets you rolling and it gets you moving. And this, of course, is also very high value. Why? Because it's natural. It uses grammatical range and accuracy, it uses good vocabulary, and it's very clear and easy to understand. So, here we see the following line graph shows the number of people visiting 2 music sites over a 15-day period. Here we can see by looking carefully at our line graph that we're looking at a range of 15 days. So I say over a 15-day period. Okay? Sentence 2, we can also see a bar chart describing the number of students from 7 different countries, and here I can say by gender and nationality breakdown. So it's not the only way of describing what I showed you earlier, isn't the only way of describing that. So describing the number of students from 7 different countries, and then you can say by gender and nationality breakdown. Or you can write full stop and give it its own sentence. It also gives a gender and nationality breakdown of staff, which could be a third sentence in your paragraph. It also shows an age and gender breakdown of staff, because in this graph here it gave both, I think, about 2 of the categories for breakdown. Now, I just want to focus on this little end phrase. This is a beautiful phrase, very simple to construct. Students never really use it, but native speakers use this all the time. So the following line graph shows the number of people visiting the store over a 15-second period, over a 10-minute period, over a 200-hour period, over a 150-day period, over a 50-week period. Oh, and don't forget this one, over a fortnight. But you notice here that fortnight didn't use the word period. I think it's better without it. If I were you, I would just say over a fortnight, full stop. A fortnight, of course, is 2 weeks. And it's a very popular word in the IELTS exams. Why? Well, I have to admit, teachers always forget to teach it when we're teaching time frames. I don't know, it just slips our mind and we forget it. It happens to me all the time. And then my students come back to me and say, "What's a fortnight?" And I just slap my forehead and I think, oh my God, how could I have forgotten to teach that? But it always happens. So the IELTS examiners know this, and they often stick it into an exam, and students come back and say, "What's a fortnight?" And you go, "Oh no, didn't I teach you?" So over an 18-month period, over a 20-year period, over a 2-decade period, and over a century period, over a 2 millennium period. So millennium is 1,000 years, century is 100 years, decade is 10 years. You'll notice that they were all a, but if the first letter of the word is a vowel, then you'll have to say over an 18-year period, month period, for example. So beautiful little phrase, will be very, very common in line graphs. Okay, it'll be very common in line graphs. Why? Well, this bottom line in line graphs tends to show a timeline. So I would say 90% of the time that lower axis, the horizontal axis on a line graph is going to be looking at a time frame. So you should be using that. Okay. Now we're going to get a little bit more ambitious. We're going to use a verb and an adverb, a from plus first amount, then the prepositions either in, on, or at, plus the first date, and then the to plus the second amount, and then in, on, or at plus the second date. Now, what am I talking about? Well, your next sentence will use another intro phrase, and a lovely intro phrase for your next step in your report is you can say as is evident from the. As is evident from the. Now, I think it's a very good idea for you to practice this. So if I say as is evident from the, you can pause the recording and just repeat it. As is evident from the. Of course, we're going to be saying the whole sentence later, but please trust me on this. Get some muscle memory here and practice this on its own. As is evident from the, as is evident from the, as is evident from the. Do it 3 times and get some muscle memory into your mouth and your vocal tract. That will help you. Then you'll mention the infographic. We'll say a line graph, and please, 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 this must be a comma. Then the price of oil, and we're going to use a verb. Now we're going to use movement verbs, verbs that discuss direction. So as is evident from the line graph, the price of oil fell. That means downwards, that goes down. Fall, fell, fallen. So we'll be using the second form of the verb here, the simple past. And we'll need an adverb to tell us how much it fell. So dramatically, that means that, wow, that was a big drop. So that's another word for a lot. So as is evident from the line graph, comma, the price of oil fell dramatically. So as you can see, very easy to build that. Very easy to build that sentence there, but you use the verb and adverb. It fell dramatically. Now, we're going to go here, and on our line graph, we're going to see from the first amount, from €20 per litre, in 2001. Why in? Well, because years, names of years, use the preposition in. they don't use on, they don't use at. So from 20 euro per litre in 2001 to 15 euro per litre in 2003. Because it's a year, it uses in. So as is evident from the line graph, comma, the price of oil fell dramatically from 20 euro per litre in 2001 to 15 euro per litre in 2003. Another intro phrase, instead of evident, you can say as is clear from the line graph, comma, immigration rose significantly from 38 million in June to 42 million in July. Rise, rose, risen. Rising, that's a go up verb. Fall, fell, fallen, falling, that's a go down verb. And here we have one of our most favorite words, significantly. So we've gone from the adjective significant, and it's wearing its high heels and lipstick. Now it's significantly. So we need an adverb to describe the verb. So immigration rose significantly. Good. As is evident, as is clear, and now as is apparent from the line graph, comma, the number of immigrants increased substantially. One of the other three sisters is here. Significantly, substantially, from 38 million in 2010 to 42 million in 2015. Okay. Why in? Well, because in is used for years. Why in? Because in is used for months. So in, the preposition in works with months and years, and it's always from the first amount to the second amount. Okay? Now, in a standard sentence, students often get this part wrong. Why? They drop some of the little words, and you want to avoid that if at all possible. As is evident from the, as is clear from the, as is apparent from the, and now as is obvious from the line graph, comma, the cost of movies grew considerably from 100 million in 2010 to 142 million in 2015. Or, as we can see from the line graph, comma, the patient's temperature went up rapidly from 38 degrees at 3 a.m. to 39.9 degrees at 5 a.m. Times and hours use the preposition rather at, so that's why it's at. But these remain at from and to. So if it's a month, it's in. If it's a year, it's in. And if it's a time, it's at. Good. As is evident from the, as is clear from the, as is apparent from the, as is obvious from the, as we can see from the. So you see, very easy to build your start. And now we have a slightly different one, as is shown in the line graph, comma, the patient's weight decreased slightly from 140 kilos on Monday to 139.7 kilos on Thursday. So names of days, use on. Names of times or hours, use at. Years, use in. And months, use in. So that's why that's the preposition we're using there. Dramatically means a lot, significantly, substantially, and considerably. They also mean a lot, but we don't know how much. So these are very general, so that's why they're so popular. Rapidly means quickly, and slightly means a little. And we've used as is evident from the line graph again, and we say the cost of Wi-Fi fluctuated substantially. So fall is go down, rise is go up, increase is go up, grew, grow, grew, grown, growing, grow, grew, grown, growing, that's to go up, go, went, gone, going up, that's also to go up, decreased means to go down, and fluctuate, because in the past fluctuated means to go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And that fluctuated substantially between 2003 and 2013. So why did I use between? I didn't want to mention all the points that it bounced up and down, so I gave the beginning and end point. And I just used between and. Now, a question that came up on our recent webinar was, could we say as shown in the line graph? And I said absolutely yes, you could do that. Though, if you take out is, I think it might sound a little better at the end of a sentence. Okay? But in this sentence here, you could say as is shown in the graph in the line graph. My own preference is to put it in, but yes, it is possible. Now, I'm going to give you another little test now. I want you to transform this list of words into a sentence. I have written the answers here. If you press play now, you'll probably see them. Okay, so I'll just jump back so you don't see them too much, but that's what it will look like. Why don't you take a pen and paper now, pause the recording and test yourself and see, can you produce this? Later I'll give you an online test and you'll do it online. But for right now, because your IELTS exam or your tests in school or maybe something at work might involve writing stuff with a pen, why not get some paper out and try and put this together as a sentence that we've just done. Okay, so do that now. Pause the recording and get to work. But I'm going to go on ahead as you pause, and there's the answer. As is evident from the line graph, the cost of wine production in France rose significantly from €2 per bottle in 2010 to €4 per bottle in 2014. This one, apparent graph price phone calls, we can say, as is apparent from the graph, the price of phone calls in Ireland dropped slightly from 10 cent in 2010 to 9 cent per minute in 2014. Okay, so that's how you would do those. So if you can, of course, try and write those out in your with a pen and paper, just to give yourself some practice.